Well, tonight, new information on what investigators are calling the largest bombing in Southern California. Today, the FBI identified 25-year-old Guy Bartkus from 29 Palms as the man who set off a bomb at that fertility clinic in Palm Springs yesterday.
KCAL News reporter Zach Boetto tells us the FBI is now combing through writings left behind by the bomber.
We are fairly confident that that subject is Guy Edward Bartkus.
The FBI Sunday identifying the Palm Springs bomber as 25-year-old Guy Edward Bartkus and say he is the lone person who was killed in the massive explosion outside an IVF clinic Saturday morning.
This is probably the largest bombing scene that we've had in Southern California. Just for reference, to throw pieces of vehicle hundreds of feet in the air and then several blocks away, you can use your imagine how big that bomb device was.
It was insane. I thought it was a massive earthquake coming off of the one we just had a couple weeks ago. The whole building picked up, and then I assumed when it wasn't an earthquake that it was probably something that hit our building. I got out to the rooftop, saw the smoke, then realized it was something else.
Authorities say the bomber's posts online and an audio message he left behind explain his ideologies and his reason for targeting a fertility clinic.
The subject had nihilistic ideations, and this was a targeted attack against the IVF facility. Based on our investigation, some of the posts that he's made online, some of the comments made in his manifesto that we're combing through right now is kind of what led us to that nihilist belief.
While the FBI was able to track down the bomber's online presence, investigators say he was not on the Bureau's radar.
This is the first time he's popped up on our radar, not to say that he hasn't had other contacts, but we are working with our locals to kind of vet that.
Now, as authorities work to collect more evidence, local lawmakers say questions still remain.
And the next question is, was he acting alone, and are we still in danger? And so it doesn't appear that there were others out there, but the FBI is still investigating this.
In Palm Springs, I'm Zach Boetto, KCAL News.
Investigators were at the bomber's home in 29 Palms throughout the day.
KCAL News reporter Lauren Posen spoke to his father.
His father lives about 20 miles south of here. He tells me he hasn't spoken to his son in over a decade and says that this is most certainly not the son he remembers raising.
So he tried to help people. He's a good kid. Yeah, the 29 Palms, he just changed.
It's a shock that still hasn't worn off for Richard Bartkus. He says a relative sent him screenshots that his son Guy Bartkus was the mastermind behind the bombing at a Palm Springs IVF clinic.
Didn't say anything about him dying, and I read later that he died.
FBI investigators say Bartkus packed his 2010 silver Ford Fusion with explosives to bomb the fertility clinic. They think he targeted it intentionally. Based on online posts and writings they're still digging through.
We need the public's help in identifying gaps in our investigation. We know where Mr. Bartkus was at about 6 a.m. We know the timeline of when he entered the city. However, we need the public's help for identifying where he traversed within the city before the explosion went off.
Bartkus says as a kid, his son was fascinated by how things worked.
He'd make a smoke bomb, a stink bomb, the kid things. But he didn't make anything dangerous. When you say bombs, it wasn't like a bomb. It was like a crack. It's something like one of the things you throw to the ground and it pops.
At 9 years old, Bartkus says his son accidentally burned the house down trying a trick with matches. Now, bombing a building, what the FBI calls the largest in Southern California, is something he never imagined his son would do.
I don't know what changed his mind. Maybe the girl, maybe the people he was hanging with up there. But it wasn't him before that. Guy was never like that before that. Guy was more for helping people.
The FBI is treating this as an intentional act of terrorism. Here at 2 Mile and Adobe Road, you can see it's still blocked off. Investigators are here still collecting evidence in and around the bomber's home. No word yet on when this neighborhood will reopen. Reporting in 29 Palms, Lauren Posen, KCAL News.
Well, this fertility clinic holds more than just embryos. It holds hope for countless of families hoping for a chance to grow.
KCAL's Lori Perez live tonight with how families are thanking first responders. Lori?
Yeah, well, for sure, this weekend has been an emotional roller coaster for patients of that clinic. We now know no embryos were hurt, but much of the facility was destroyed tonight. The facility's director says they are already moving forward, and in his words, nothing will derail their work. That story coming up a little bit later.
All right, Lori, thank you so much.